Today we are going live with Faith Ronning of Frank the Brand LA. We're back at our 12 p.m. Pacific time. We had such a great time last week with Rachel of Seville Row. This is actually episode 7. I can't believe that I've made it 7 weeks in a row. I'm honestly, there's been some wild stuff happening these weeks. And the fact that I've made it on, honestly, I'm giving a round of applause to myself. But this is really fun for me to hear from all of these entrepreneurs and these incredible women, the businesses they're building. It's just been such a blast. So a little background on Faith is she is a fashion designer based in Los Angeles. She went to school at the Fashion of Institute Design, FIDM, here in Los Angeles, was in creative design in the corporate world, and then launched her own brand, her autumn winter line, this fall. So really exciting. We're going to talk through how she built this brand, the things that go into like sketching, designing, and creating a fashion brand. And then also, some of the issues that come up. Obviously, we're all in a wild year, so can't imagine the production issues and things like that. But all of her stuff is organic and socially sourced. So let's dive in. It is loading. Here we go. Faith, how are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
I'm good.
Move this down a bit. We're both
Yes.
matching. We
I
have
know.
our
This is
sweaters.
great. Literally, this is one of the only colors I wear. It's black, white, and whatever this is called,
Yeah.
neutral.
Yeah, I love it. Perfect
Okay,
weather.
so I know for real, we're both in Los Angeles. It's been just like a wild heat wave to cold to weird, but your clothes are incredible, and I need to get every single piece from your
Aw,
launch because they're
yeah.
so transitional. I don't know if you guys have stalked her yet and Frank the Brand LA, but the products are absolutely incredible, sourced so well, cotton and hemp. So let's talk about your time. I want to dive into your childhood a little bit and ask you, where you thought you would be, I guess, right now, and then how you got to FIDM and that process, and then also then your corporate design, and then launching your own. So give us a
Okay.
starting point. Did you always want to be a fashion designer?
I knew that I wanted to be a fashion designer sometime in high school, so
Okay.
at a pretty young age.
Yeah.
But when I was a little kid, I always wanted to be a veterinarian because
I love that.
yeah, because my grandpa was a vet,
Okay.
and so I was always like around animals. We had cats, like kitten litters, and we
Cool.
rescued a dog from our neighbor who like had abused him, and so I just had like a really big heart for animals.
Mhm.
Um, and so I always wanted to do that, but that like died off once I realized I wasn't super into like science and being a veterinarian.
Yeah.
Um, so then, yeah, I went to school. I had a photography teacher who was amazing. And I actually need to like reach out to him and like give him some credit.
Yeah.
But he actually let us choose a thesis for our photography, and I chose fashion design,
Yeah.
fashion photography,
Yeah.
because I was more drawn to the clothing than I was drawn to, the actual taking photos.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'd like style my friends and before I knew
Cool.
how to sew. And my teacher showed a lot of interest in what I did, and he was like, "This is amazing. Like, you should really pursue this more."
Mhm.
So then I started taking like sewing classes, drawing classes. I went to like summer camps at colleges for fashion design.
No way.
And then I remember it was like time to apply for college, and all my friends were, getting accepted and like choosing where they were going. And I was like, oh my goodness, like I have to make a portfolio. I have to make
Yeah.
this happen, because I only had 1 month before I had to submit my portfolio.
Oh my
So
gosh.
I submitted it to a few places, and I decided I wanted to be on the West Coast because that's totally my vibe.
Yeah.
So I got accepted to FIDM, and I went to FIDM, and that was a really, really good decision for me. I
Yeah.
have a highlight for that on my page.
Yeah.
But yeah, so then I went to FIDM, and I got my degree in fashion design. And it was such a good experience for me because they really taught me everything from A to Z. Like my actual major for me was perfect. I couldn't have chosen a better major. So I knew that I had always wanted to start my own fashion brand, but I didn't really know how to get there yet because I hadn't worked in the industry. So then I graduated from FIDM. I got a job in the corporate world for about 2 years.
Yeah.
And that taught me a ton, but I knew that wasn't my end goal at all. So I had great experience from that. And then I just decided in the fall of last year to peace out and do my own thing, which was a huge leap of faith, but I was like, it's now or never.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I am now.
Okay, so you're doing this all from what you learned in school, what you've learned in college, and even high school, taking those camps and stuff. Like, are you doing this on your own? Are you reaching out to advisors and maybe old teachers? Like, what resources have you been using to launch this line? Because this is huge to go from, you know, corporate design and that structure and the security of it, which we've all done. I feel like as entrepreneurs, we either make it or break it in the corporate world. Like either it's for us or we hate every day in it, but we know it's giving us that experience we need. So like how did you go from, you know, being in the corporate world to then launching this? Like there's so many things in there.
It's definitely a learning experience every day. Still, you know, it's something where like they say the first 5 years of going on your own is going to be a shit show. And so that's like, I'm like, okay, I'm not expecting much. I'm just doing everything that I know. And so when I left Lucky, I had actually previously, while I was working at Lucky, I was going home and like staying up all night and working on pattern making and designing. And like I said, I knew that I was going to start something of my own. So I would just like, sometimes at my job, I would like sketch a little bit and be like, oh, this is a great idea for the brand. But I would really be like, ooh, I kind of want to do something like this for my own, you know? So I would be sketching and coming home and just pattern making and sewing. And I learned a lot at school, but I've learned 10 times more on my own now because at school it was like an assignment to get a grade. And for me now it's like, okay, like this has to fit all body types. Like I have to make this work for not just my grade, but for other people. So there's just a lot of sewing and manipulating and fitting that goes into it. So I was perfecting kind of like my last fits at the end of my corporate job. So I had something kind of built and ready to go. But I didn't know at all like what it would really look like.
Yeah. Okay, so you obviously can sketch, draw, pattern make. You make your clothes handmade, right? Am I right on that?
Yeah.
That is so incredible.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing for now. And eventually I want to outsource and be able to, you know, have other people working for me. But right now that's how it looks, which is the best decision for me right now.
Yeah, for real. And also it's high quality. You know that what you're getting it's one of a kind. It has that curiosity to it and the handmade, but also such good. Like if you guys go to her website, I found this one thing I was scrolling. You said Frank stands for quality without compromise, beauty and imperfection, and plants over pollution. And everything you see from Frank is so I mean, down to the colors, to the fabric, you use organic cottons and hemp. So what made you go towards the more sustainable route? Because you probably saw it all in the corporate design world and also in school.
Yeah, that's such a good question. I was definitely always very interested in sustainability and taking care of our planet. But I think I saw a lot in the corporate world that I felt like there was a lot of waste.
Yeah.
And I told myself like, oh, I'm not going to do that. Like, I'm definitely like, and I would ask questions like, oh, like, why do we waste this? Or like, why is this like this? And nobody really knew.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I want to be transparent with my customers. I want everyone to know what's happening, like where we're getting our fabric and how it's made, and that the workers who are making the fabric and who are working in the fields are getting paid. And so that's why I chose a fabric mill with the highest of certifications, because I feel like I can be genuinely transparent with people and there's no hiding.
Yeah, totally. Which is so rare. And obviously, it's hard to do, right? I'm sure you've got way more cost associated with your
Oh,
materials.
yeah. Yeah.
And the time spent researching, is this actually a reputable fabric mill, like you said? What were some challenges that maybe you encountered when you were debating on going, just like mainstream or going into the more sustainable route?
Yeah, I think that there's pros and there are cons for, pricing and things like that. But
Yeah.
the cons, like I would definitely say that it's tempting.
Yeah.
If you see fabric that's like $2 a yard, you're like, oh wow, I could profit so much off of this.
Yes.
And that's tempting, but but you also have to think of the people behind it and how that's affecting them and their lives. And I love that so many companies are starting to open up and be more transparent. And those are the companies that I have reached out to. And the transparent companies are the companies that get back to me. They'll say like, hey, thanks for reaching out. This is what we use, because they want this world to be a better place. They want this world to be a more sustainable place. And so they'll share their tips and tricks with smaller businesses, because they're like, we want everyone to win. Versus the bigger companies that aren't sustainable are very, like that's all, they'll put one sustainable thing out and they'll market that and be like, look, we're super sustainable. But if you dive deep into what they're really doing, it's greenwashing.
You mentioned that on your profile. So give us, like, for those of us that aren't as dive deep into it, greenwashing is basically what? How would you sum it up?
Yeah, so it's pretty much what I just explained, where a company has, they're not paying their workers a good wage, and there's not equality in the workplace. There's people underage working and just bad conditions, and then they'll put out one product that is sustainable, or they'll use one fabric that's sustainable. Like maybe the fabric is organic and the actual fiber is sustainable for the planet, but the people making it, they're not paying them well. So it's like they'll take one part of it and amplify it and then kind of hide the other parts of it.
Yeah. That is so huge I feel like our generation and even the ones younger than us are way more, than our parents' generation, not to their fault, but way more interested in that, the sustainability, environmental impact, waste, product waste. Fabrics, like, does polyester actually break down, and like going into the scary stuff. But it's hard, like it's hard on regular consumers to really be this informed. So we're looking to brands like you to educate us and give us that, insight into some of the stuff that maybe we don't have time to research. So it's just so huge what you're doing.
Thank you.
I love it. So I want to know, because I'm on this little bend the last couple of weeks and I go on and off this wave of college, yes or no, worth it or not. And you even mentioned that you felt like you've learned so much doing this on your own. But if you were in high school thinking that you wanted to create a fashion line, but you had no idea how, obviously you went to school and you got the training, the 4 years of training and diving into how to do that. Do you think it was so crucial and beneficial for you to go to FIDM and the things that you learned there to give you the confidence to start your own line? Or do you think there's other people that could do the same thing and there's resources out there that they could find? Like, where are you at on the college? Yes or no? And
yeah, that's a really, really good question, especially right now. Yes, for me and for what I'm doing, fashion design specifically, college was for me. I would recommend going to a college and just getting like your basic 2-year degree, whatever you need to get into the workplace. Because then once you're in the workplace, it's kind of like, if you're going into the corporate world, it's kind of like once you've got that corporate job, that's your new resume. So it's like, you know, if you're confident that you're going to be able to get a good job out of college, don't stay in school. Because for me, I went for 2 years. I have my associates in fashion design.
Cool.
And in my interview at my corporate job, they didn't even ask me if I had my bachelor's or my associates. And I was just thinking like, wow, my friends who are staying in school and are going for 4 years, amazing for them. They're going to learn so much. That's great. But wow, like I'm actually not a school person, which might surprise people. I do love learning, but I think this super structured school, getting grades, turning things in, and deadlines, like wasn't really my thing. But it taught me everything I needed to know. And I was like, I'm going to get in and I'm going to get out. And then in order to get my first job, that's really why I'm going to college.
Yeah. For that certification to get in the door, like you said, it's so huge. Because I mean, I've got a son, he's like 13 months old, so he's far from this, but I'm just debating what's going to happen. You know, if he wants to be blank, can he do it without going to college? Yes or no? And I love how you said getting that, basically the piece of paper, but also that experience to get your foot in the door. I like the way of thinking. Where are you from originally? I didn't even think to ask that.
Oh, that's okay. I'm from the Midwest. I'm from Indiana.
I'm from Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Oh, wow.
So we're like kind of neighbors. I love it. Honestly, I can kind of sense a Midwest person from the get-go. There's just this like quality to us. Definitely. And I think other people know it about us too, whether we like it to be called out or not. Obviously the O's and the A's and the accents, that's obvious. But that like Midwestern nice is actually such a true thing. I don't know if when you first moved to LA, you're like, do you notice people don't wave on the side of the street? Like they don't say hi.
I definitely noticed. I think that there's like pros and cons also with people from LA. Like I think that there's a lot of creatives out here who want to like work together. And I think there can be a lot of good socialization there. But I definitely, like, even with you, I can tell, like, okay, she's probably not from LA. And that's not an insult to anyone who's from LA,
not at all.
It's just like a way that you're raised and you're brought up and you learn how to have a conversation with somebody. You can just kind of tell.
Totally. It's even down to having conversations with, like, our peers, adults, and people older than us. I don't know if you notice this in work, but just being able to carry on a conversation and be interested in someone that's like, I don't know, 50, 60, 70, 80 years old.
Yeah.
I don't know why I feel like Midwest did that for me. So out here, it's like, I don't get intimidated by CEOs or founders or like people really high up because I just think we're all the same, doing the same things. Like, come down to our level.
Yeah, you were taught like value as a kid growing up, that you hold value as well as everyone else. Yeah, that's so good.
So another question, and I'm hitting you hard this week, but I'm just so interested because you're crushing it. It's such a great job. When it comes to like, you know, competition in fashion, everyone's always saying something along the lines of, oh, it's such a saturated market. People say that about photography, marketing, literally any industry. They're always like, oh, what a saturated market. And they're that barrier to entry, they're feeling that, okay, maybe they have this idea to launch a fashion line and they don't know what's going to set them apart and they're kind of worried. Like, what would you say to those people? Because I personally don't think every market is saturated. There's always going to be a need. You just need to become, you know, a little different and come at it with your own individuality. But what would you say to people that are kind of like nervous?
I would say that I think a lot of importance goes into like you and who you are. Don't follow what other people are doing. Make sure that the things that are important to you show out. And if you are following your own true, like genuine self, it's going to look different. There's a niche for everything. I think it's really important. There's a really good trend forecasting website, WGSN. That's been a really good resource. So you can kind of follow along and see what's trending. You can go into the web and look at what bags are going to be in 2020, spring 2022, what colors, what textures. So you can kind of look at that. You definitely want to stay on trend and make sure that you're not like totally over on this other side where, you know, things aren't trending,
Mhm.
but you can look at those things and then say, okay, like how can I make this different?
Yeah.
And not, don't copy. Like
Yeah.
if you've seen something else and you think it's so cute, that's totally okay. It's fine to pull inspiration from something, but don't copy, because
Yeah.
you're just going to be like second, third, fourth, fifth on the list of things. You're not going to come out as number one. So I would say definitely like be true to yourself and like who you actually are, and that will come out on your marketing and on your website.
Yeah, I love that. And your marketing is incredible. I mean, the everything about it is just so on. Do you do that yourself? Do you outsource that? How does that work?
Thanks. So my sister is going into fashion design as well,
Cool.
and she is incredible with writing. She was kind of deciding if she wanted to go into writing or to be an author or fashion design, which is like two totally different things. But she chose fashion, and I'm
Yeah.
so thankful for that. But she has helped so much with like the graphics and the
Yeah.
website and writing. She's so good at what she does, and I'm like, Carrie, I need some help. Like so she's helped me a lot with it.
Yeah.
But also I do run the Instagram
Yeah.
primarily. There is an app, I'm sure you're familiar with it,
Yeah.
called Planoly.
Yes.
Have you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it.
And yeah, so that's what I use to put everything together and make everything look really aesthetically pleasing. Because if you're just like posting, sometimes you don't
Yes.
realize, oh, wait a sec, like that doesn't go well with what's next to it. So that's been a
Exactly.
really helpful app for me, because social media
Yeah.
is definitely new for me.
Yeah.
But I feel like we've kind of gotten a good system going now.
Yeah, totally. I love it so much. What other tips and tricks
Thanks.
as we wrap up that you would give to other people in your scenario, in the fashion world, in the design world, things that you're loving, people you're following?
Yeah. Well, I would definitely say to make connections,
Yeah.
and that's one that we all hear every day, but
Yeah.
it's so important. Like I have my teachers' phone numbers from FIDM. I have like other students' phone numbers, and like they'll launch their brands, and I'm like, good job for you. Shout them out. They'll shout me out. And it's
Yeah.
just so important to keep those connections. And if you are like going to school, to make sure that you're aware of that, because even with me, I look back and I'm like, oh, I wish I would have kind of like
Mhm.
talked or communicated a little bit more, or gotten this person's number, because now I see they're doing XYZ or whatever. So yeah, I would definitely say like you hold the key to your success, and don't be afraid to reach out to other brands, and
Mhm.
um, don't set your expectations here. Like just just kind of go with the flow. Things aren't always going to go exactly as planned, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Um, I feel like I really enjoy listening to like self-help
Yeah.
or self-help podcasts
Yeah.
and books and things like that, like
Yeah.
Brené Brown, Dear
Yes.
Greatly is so
Mhm.
good. The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck
Oh,
is
yes.
really, really good.
Yes.
Um, for podcasts, I love listening to the Michelle Obama podcast,
Mhm.
to Rachel Hollis, Gary Vee, just like those
Yes.
motivational people who are like, get up, go do it. You have no excuses. Like, I need to hear that,
Yeah.
because that's the motivation that I have right now, because it's kind
Yeah.
of like be myself and I. So, I definitely listen to that for like health. And then also I love running. I think like
Yeah.
getting in some time for yourself every morning, or whatever, morning or night, is so important, to be
Mhm.
able to, because I think a lot of times when you're starting a business, it can be like 6 a.m. to midnight you're on,
Mhm.
7 days a week. And it's so important to take a little bit of time, a little chunk out of the day for you. And those, when I do that, those days are so much more successful than
Yeah.
the days that I'm just like waking up and like scrambling to get everything done.
Oh
So
my
yeah, I
gosh.
definitely think taking time for yourself is so important as a business
Yeah.
owner.
That is so huge. You know, I was talking with some ladies last night about the first 10 minutes of your day and the last 10 minutes of your day, you're the
Yeah.
most susceptible to information. And so like we all
Oh.
know the starting your day, but also ending your day. So like the 10 minutes before you go to bed. So I like what you're talking about is reading those books, listening to those podcasts, going
Mhm.
for a walk or a run, and like centering and you know kind of ending the day on the same notes. And they said something about like neuroplasticity. You can actually, I mean, I need to dive into this, but you can
Yeah.
change your mindset. You can actually change things in your brain. So if you wake up and have a routine of like looking at your phone, checking your email, your Instagram,
Mhm.
whatever, and you have these like, you know, maybe thoughts of this is what I have to do, you have to focus on like changing some of those routines and then changing some of those thoughts, and you can have such more of a productive day. So I need to dive into it because I actually want to have
Yeah.
the girl on that was telling me all this, but it's just what you said, like you hold the key to your success. How are you going to plan out your day so
Yeah.
that you can be more productive but also not drown in your business from like 6 a.m.
Right.
to midnight, which can
Exactly.
happen. So
And knowing something that's been really helpful for me recently is kind of writing out what takes the most time in your day,
yeah,
and then figuring out like, okay, does that really need to be there? Like, is
yeah,
that number one? Is that what takes the most time getting me the most sales, or
yeah,
is that helping me? So it's kind of like structuring everything um correctly, and I think that's something huge for me that I've kind of restructured and been like, okay, wait a second, I was spending like 6 hours
yeah,
trying to, you know, do XYZ, and I don't really need to do that.
yeah,
And now I've been able to take those 6 hours and put it into creating for the next
yeah,
season, or whatever it is. So I think
yeah.
that's been really good. The way that you structure your day is super important too.
Yeah. And then now you're coming up to, so you launched your first line. Are you
Hmm.
focused on that then? Or are you already planning like 2 seasons in advance? Because I know from my Project Runway watching days, you're
Yeah.
probably thinking so far
Yeah.
ahead, right?
Yes, so that's the ideal. And that's so I am planning, I'm working on spring
Yeah.
2021,
Okay, cool.
which normally you'd be working on spring 2021 and spring 2020. So
Yeah.
with the first launch, I was like, I need to just do this. I need to push it
Yes.
out. I need to go.
Yeah.
So I am having to work kind of like twice as fast right now
Yeah.
in order to get spring out, and I'm doing a few little like surprise launches coming up, which
Ooh,
I'm really excited about. So I'm working on those things, and then spring and um, yeah, fall 2021 is something to be thinking about,
okay.
but that hasn't been a thought yet.
I can see your brain clicking as we're talking. You're like, I should get off this live. I have so much work to
Yeah,
do.
yeah, exactly, exactly. I'm like, oh, don't remind me. I have a lot to do. A
Yeah,
year's
for
worth
real.
of stuff in like a week.
I know. It's like that's when it's almost like can you plan ahead so well that you're just like on track, or is it an entrepreneurial like personality trait where we wait till the week before and we're up to like
Yeah,
6 a.m. every night no matter what? Even if we did plan
yeah.
ahead, we still find
That's
more things to do.
That's so true. There's always more for me to do. Like once I thought like, oh, once I launch, I'll take a little break. And then I was like, oh no,
The
I need to
joke.
start working on
Yeah.
the next thing.
Yeah.
So it's like it just you kind of decide, you know, it like I said, it's like it never ends. So you
Yeah.
have to kind of like set a schedule and be like, okay, I know I have so much to do, but I just have to like set that aside for a minute. I am me. I have a life. I
Yeah.
have family and friends. I need
Yeah.
to like take a deep breath and focus on those things too.
Yeah. I love that so much. Well, this was so much fun.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm excited because there's all these dreams I always have like deep in my mind if I ever
Yeah.
decide to not do blank. And just thinking about like what it took to go into what you did and how it looks in the process. So this was huge,
Yeah.
Faith. Thanks so much.
Thank
And
you.
hanging
And
with another Midwestern. I love it.
I know, I know. I was going to say, you sent me a voice message on Instagram, and nobody has ever done that to me before. And I remember you were like, I love the details, I love the
Yeah.
colors, I love this and that. And I was like, this person is super genuine. Like
Yeah.
I felt that from the moment. So what you're doing is definitely making a
Thank you.
difference, and people are noticing you, and you're doing so great. I love your platform, how clean everything looks. It's just
Cool.
amazing. So
Thank
good on
you
you too.
so much. If only you
Yeah.
knew the amount of like wild stuff happening for me to get on these lives. I'm like, that
Oh
is great.
God.
Thank you. But yeah, I
a
love
baby as
it's
well.
like that voice thing has been huge for me because it's like how would I want to be connected to and speaking to someone vocally is just so huge. You get to hear
Yeah.
who they are. Yeah, that's so
Yeah, I
cool.
love
I'm
it.
glad it
This is
worked.
very new for me, but I really like Instagram Live.
Yes, great. I'm gonna have you on again. I'll send you
Okay,
dates.
yeah. That sounds
Okay,
great.
thanks for
All right,
hanging.
have a good
You
one.
too.
Bye.
Bye.